into today's lesson, no root, no fruit. Now, going back to that, was that a Psalms you read?
Yeah.
Going back to that Psalms that you read, one thing that was highlighted just meditating on it was the fact that it said that the Most High has put a new song in our mouth, right? And, I think about that. Think about what song we were singing before, right? Many of us were singing the song of this world, the conversations of this world. And now the Most High has taken us out of those conversations of the world, those conversations of vanity, idleness, things that didn't glorify the Most High. And now it's put a new song that we constantly sing, telling the people to repent, come back to the Most High. This is the name of the Most High. This is the name of His Son. And I just think about that because there's really nothing that we can take credit for, to take credit for it. It's really just by the grace of the Most High bestowing this truth upon us that we have this new melody to sing. And this is something He has charged us to do, to actually go out and sing this melody. And some will hear it and some will be pleased by it and say it's a lovely song. Some will do it and take heed to the song and some won't. But nonetheless, the Most High still has told us to sing this song amongst those that are willing to hear it. Okay? All right, so let's get into today's lesson. And I like the title of the lesson. No roots, no fruits. And I think by the end of this, we'll kind of get an idea on what it's going to take to bear some fruit. But nonetheless, let's get into it. Let me pull up today's lesson. And for some reason, my computer likes to get some sleep. All right, so no fruit, no root, should I say, no fruit. The new year and the branches of the vine. And just reading here, Shalom family. Happy Feast of Unleavened Bread to you all. Today we will embark on a spiritual and intellectual journey on the importance of a believer's manner of life. Surely one should have a certain conduct year-round, but today we will focus on the crucial time of the year. This time is from the winter solstice, which begins roughly around December 21st, leading into the start of the real new year according to the Enoch calendar. Through Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, up until the Feast of Weeks or Pentecost. During this time, believers should finish the year strong and start the new year even stronger. When we say start and finish strong, when we say start and finish strong, we're talking about a spiritual schedule, a heavy study dosage, fasting, prayer, and applying your studies to everyday circumstances. This is a roughly 4 to 5 month period that is very crucial, and today we will find out exactly why it is so vital for us to really lock in during this time. Let's get Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10, and we're going to go 10 to 12.
The book of Ephesians, chapter 6, we read in 10 to 12. Ready?
Yeah.
Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Most High and in the power of His might. Put on the whole armor of Ahayah, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.
Right, so we will begin by first giving you a brief but strong understanding of the winter solstice and what this time period is used by Satan's dark forces. We will draw our data from Wikipedia to further our knowledge on the winter solstice, right? and let's get the Wikipedia, but we understand that this is what we're wrestling. And it's funny because even though every Christian can quote the scripture of spiritual forces, wickedness in high places, that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, what I come to realize, and I'm going to say for some time, because we were once there ourselves, is that we do not understand these forces and the unseen realm that is working every day in our lives, right? Majority of Christians do not understand evil spirits, nor the origin of the evil spirits, or how evil spirits function, or what we need to do as believers to combat and fight against spiritual attacks. Many of them don't understand these, but they all understand that we're fighting against not flesh, right? And even us here, we have this understanding, but the depths of the spiritual battle is still, I'm saying what we receive is just the tip of the iceberg. And that's something I know the elders talk about. They want to go more into spiritual, the spiritual fight of things, understanding the spiritual forces of things. And that's something most high willing that I think we'll get into as well. But some have no clue and therefore never see the hand that is working behind the scenes, kind of like the Wizard of Oz, only falling for the devices that these spirits bring about, right? But let's get Wikipedia, going into the winter solstice.
All right, it says the winter solstice, also called the hibernal solstice, occurs when either the Earth's poles reach its maximum tilt away from the sun. This happens twice yearly, once in each hemisphere, northern and southern. For the hemisphere, the winter solstice is the day with the shortest period of daylight and longest night of the year.
Right, so this is when they tell us to turn back our clocks. Get less sunset, more dark. Days become darker earlier in the day, so to speak, right? Go on.
And when the sun is at its lowest daily maximum evolution or elevation in the sky, each polar region experiences continuous darkness or twilight around its winter solstice. The winter solstice occurs during the hemisphere's winter. In the northern hemisphere, this is the December solstice, December 21st or 22nd. In the southern hemisphere, this is the June solstice, June 20th or 21st. Although the winter solstice itself lasts only a moment, the term also refers to the day on which it occurs. The term midwinter is also used synonymously with the winter solstice, although it carries other meanings as well. Since prehistory, the winter solstice has been a significant time of year in many cultures and has been marked by festivals and rites. It marked the symbolic death and rebirth of the sun. The gradual waning of the daylight hours is reversed and begins to grow again. Some ancient monuments such as Newgrange, Stonehenge, and Cahokia Woodhenge are aligned with the sunrise or sunset on the winter solstice. Some bullet points here. Blue Christmas holiday, that's Western Christian. Yule in the Northern Hemisphere, Germanic. Saturnalia, ancient Rome, celebrated shortly before winter solstice.
Right? So you'll find that really and truly all the religions of the earth have the same practice or hold this time of the winter solstice as a time of celebration, a time of worship, a time of significance in linking in with God's, right? As we know that, for instance, in South Asia, they have the Festival of Lights. We know that the Jewish community have Hanukkah during this period as well. So there's a lot of religious ceremonies going on during this time that are outside of the Mosai. We understand that we have dedication, but we understand what dedication is about. The reclaiming of the temple of God, right? But for other religions, as I said, it's linked into the sun worship, so Festival of Lights going back into, because all religions believe that during the winter time, the sun dies, and eventually there is a rebirth. This is why you get less sun during the winter time, because the sun is actually dying, and then after eventually only it is resurrected again, so to speak, during the summer months and whatnot, right? Go on.
That was it on that.
Right? So let's take a short look into Yule. Pay very close attention to what we mark with red arrows. So throughout this lesson, they have areas that they mark. You probably will not see this on the slide, but I'm going to highlight some of these.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Yule, also called Joel, or Jolu,
Right. So remember, Joel, or Joel. Go on.
is a winter festival historically observed by the Germanic peoples that was incorporated into Christmas during the Christianization of the Germanic people. In present times, adherents of some new religious movements, such as modern Germanic paganism, celebrate Yule independently of the Christian festival. Scholars have connected the original.
Right, so even in present times, some outside of Christianity, still practice this Yule practice. And guys, I have seen it. I know, obviously, Shamar has seen this, where you have what they call Krampus. And you'll see people in certain communities keeping Krampus. Krampus is also linked to Yule. So Krampus is the European version of Halloween, of Christmas, but they're dressed like characters you would find during Halloween, meaning that Santa is actually dressed as a goblin. The guy who plays Krampus is actually a demon, right? And the demon was here to get the kids who've been naughty throughout the years. They westernized and repackaged it for the Western world, and that became what we know today as Santa, right? So you still have communities outside of Christianity that understand that this is a pagan time for this ritual, going back to the Yule log, which is a representation of Tammuz, Nimrod, etc., right? Go on.
It says, in present times, adherents of some new religious movements, such as modern Germanic paganism, celebrate Yule independently of the Christian festivals. Scholars have connected the original celebrations of Yule to the wild hunt, the god Odin, and
right. So in Greek mythology, this would be Odin. Today, they have movies that they make in Marvel movies that have Thor, which is the son of Odin. So these things are still incorporated today. They show it as movies. This is how they get the kids to partake in these, by making them heroes, and then we go into a term that is used called hero worship, where we start to idolize these gods and worship these gods. And then Christmas time, Halloween time, who do kids want to be like? A lot of times they want to be like their superheroes, right? Which are related to fallen deities, right? Go on.
Celebrations of Yule to the wild hunt, the god Odin, and the heathen Anglo-Saxon Mother's Night. The term Yule and cognates are still used in English and the Scandinavian languages, as well as in the Finnish and Estonian, to describe Christmas and other festivals occurring during the winter holiday season. Furthermore, some present-day Christian customs and traditions, such as the Yule log, Yule Gocc, Yule boar, Yule singing, and others may have connections to older pagan Yule traditions.
Right, so even in Christianity, we understand during the time of Constantine that eventually, in order to appease the people in the Roman Empire, or the Roman Empire, they started to incorporate a lot of these pagan festivals into Christianity. So Easter started to come in. Christmas started to come in, which was the worship of Mithra, Ra, the sun deity. So all of these things started to get incorporated, say 325 AD, right? So this goes beyond, beyond any of us were born, our parents, etc., etc. So we were born into this lie, right? Go on.
The modern English noun Yule descends from Old English Go, earlier Geo, Geo, and Geola, sometimes plural.
Right? So even when we see the log in the fire, and I don't know about y'all, but I never, this is kind of one of the privileges of being the have-nots. We didn't have a house with the fire pit in there. Because I know what that would have led to. That would have led to the hanging, the stockings being hung, family gatherings around the fire, you know what I mean, while we're burning the Yule log, right? But all these things are pagan customs that we've learned to accept. And for some people, that fireplace, that burning of the log, that, you know, with your cocoa and whatnot, that to them, that is what Christmas, you know, the beauty of Christmas. To be around the fire while we're burning the Yule log with family and friends. That some people, they hold dear to that, right? Not understanding that these things are very satanic. Go on.
It says the Old English Go or Jeho and Geola or Geoli indicate the 12-day festival of Yule, later Christmastide. The later indicating the month of Yule, whereby Geola referred to the period before the Yule festival, December, and Geola referred to the period after Yule, January. Both words are cognate with Gothic. Old Norse is Icelandic, Faris, and Norwegian, Norse, Danish, Swedish, Norwegian, Bokmal, and are thought to be derived from Proto-Germanic. All right.
Either the etymology.
Proto-Germanic etymology. The word is conjectured in an explicitly pre-Christian context, primarily in the Old Norse, where it is associated with Old Norse deities, among many others. A list of names of Odin. The long-bearded god Odin bears the name Jolnir.
Right, so the long-bearded god, right, when we look at Canada, he's the long-bearded, and he's really a deity, but really it's Odin worship, right? Go on.
The Yule one and a grip composed in the 12th century. Jol is interpreted as coming from one of Odin's names, Jolnir, closely related to Old Norse Jolnar, a poetic name for the gods. It has been thought that Old French Joliffe, French Jolie, which was borrowed into English in the 14th century as jolly, it is itself borrowed from Old Norse Jol.
Right? Do you guys get that? So when you hear people Jolie or, you know, jolly, or, you know what I mean? Or sometimes, let me tell you how they get you. They have some of those songs with those words in it, jolly, Christmas, and you're walking in the mall, and tutu, now you catch yourself start singing in your head, right? So really and truly, what they're doing is they're using these things to cast spells on the people. And subconsciously, we pick them up and we start rehearsing and start singing it, and tutu, you know, if we don't check ourselves, we're in that Christmas spirit.
Start bobbing your head after a while.
Right? This is all happening during this winter solstice time period. Right?
You know what I understand though?
Yeah.
It's like in 1983, in the 80s.
Yeah.
If you look then and now, Christmas is not even the same anymore.
I mean, they're trying to pull out the true origins of it now. Right? It's definitely more commercialized and whatnot, but it's still, as I said, we understand it was bad from its conception. Right? There's a history, there was something they did on the History Channel, which they went through the full historical, what it was in ancient Rome, and how they've commercialized it and rebranded it and made plays about it, and for the Western world to accept it. Because the Western world at one point wouldn't accept it. Why? Because there was a lot of crime and like pedophilia. It was like the purge on Christmas. That Christmas was a day where all laws can be broken. You can murder, pedophilia, all those things were accepted on this day, right? A lot of people don't know that history. But, as I said, jolly, these are terms all going back to Odin. Brother Caleb, you want to say something?
Yes, in French, the word jail also means prison.
It means prison as well.
It means prison.
Wow.
Jail.
Now, you know what also I was thinking about? A derivative of Jehovah is Jovi, right? Jovi or Jove, right? So all of that is, you know what I mean, linked in because Zeus is a derivative of Zeus. Let me get one more. Go.
Jolly Rancher.
Okay, I mean, you know. You know, if you want to go that far, you can go that far. But nonetheless, we definitely see that word jolly being tossed around during this time, right? Have a jolly old Christmas. We hear those terms and whatnot. And really they're telling you have a pagan old Christmas, olden old Christmas, right? So family, this sounds all too familiar. Winter pagan festivals lasting 12 days, jolly, long-bearded gods, burning logs in fire, jolly old saints, Nick. Anyone? Let's continue, right? So all these terms we have heard during this time and whatnot, right? Let's get ancient Rome, and we're going to go into Saturnalia.
All right. So we're in Wikipedia again, ancient Rome. In the ancient Roman calendar, December 25th was the date of the winter solstice. In AD 274, the Emperor Aurelian made this the date of the festival Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, the birthday of Sol Invictus, or of the invincible sun.
Right, so the birthday of the sun. Go on.
Gary Forsyth, professor of ancient history, says the celebration would have formed a welcome addition to the 7-day period of the Saturnalia, December 17th to the 23rd.
Right, so make note of that. So December 17th to the 23rd marked in ancient Rome Saturnalia. Right, go on.
Rome's most joyous holiday season since Republican times, characterized by parties, banquets, and exchanges of gifts.
Right, so in Rome, they also held this winter solstice period as a time of festivals, a time of celebration and whatnot. Now, if anybody, I don't know how much of you are, most of us should be familiar with Saturnalia, right? But how do we see Saturnalia today practiced? We know Christmas as a whole, but I'm just talking about from a work standpoint. How do we see Saturnalia incorporated? Office parties, right? So in ancient Rome, Saturnalia was the one day that the master would do something to his servants. Give them gifts, make them feel special, make them feel appreciated, so that in the next following year, they would get the servitude of his servants to continue. So I laugh because it's the same old thing during Christmas time. You have your manager wanting to make you guys feel appreciated. You have the head offices. Everyone makes it their business to make the servants feel appreciated in order they can get more servants for the next year. Right? I mean, the food and stuff like that. We know there's other elements to this. But that same practice is still happening. Like I always see it, and it's funny because that's the day I always take off of work when they have those parties. But you always have them come around, and then they have the gift cards. They want to give you the gift cards, and sometimes the gift cards they get from a company that they work with, so it's a tax write-off. So it's really they're not giving nothing out of their pocket. But the spiritual significance is that we're locked in for the next year, right? With the sole desire to keep this company going. Do our best to keep the ship going, to build their kingdom. And so that's a practice that we still see. And it's funny because you're not coming. What do you mean you're not coming? In fact, it's funny because, and this is where they kind of get me. But, in fact, they'll even pack up the gift and wait for you to come back. So you'll skip the day. But they make sure that you receive that gift card. Oh, we saved it for you. You know what I mean? Really, truly, they got to make sure that you receive you got to receive the gift. And the gift comes with another year of servitude. But let's continue. Go on.
It says, a widely held theory is that the church chose December 25th as Christ's birthday, Dies Natalis Christi, to appropriate the Roman winter solstice festival, making the sun God's birthday. Dies Natalis Solstice Invicti, according to C. Philip E. Northaft, a professor at the Trinity College in Dublin. Though this theory is nowadays used as a default explanation for the choice of 25th of December as Christ's birthday, few advocates of this theory seem to be aware of how paltry the available evidence actually is.
Right? So they make it seem like this was a suggestion. No, that is exactly what happened. Read that part again. That is exactly what happened.
According to C. Philip and E. Northaff, a professor at the Trinity College, through this theory is nowadays
It's not a theory. It's facts. Go on.
used as default explanation for the choice of 25th December as Christ's birthday. Few advocates of the theory seem to be aware of how paltry the available evidence actually is.
All right. So and we're going to get facts, but it was Constantine who made that policy. It's not a suggestion. This is his historical facts. Keep on going now.
That's it.
All right. So it says, and I guess I'm right here, right? Keep in mind.
Yes, sir.
All right. Keep the time of the Roman feast of Saturnalia. So record this. Make a mental note of this. December 17th to the 23rd in mind. This will be a key point of emphasis. And we will later show the real purpose of celebrating during this certain time. The book of Adam and Eve prophetically shows the institution of Passover and Pentecost, with Adam, not to mention the future sacrifice of Christ Yeshua on the cross. Additionally, a chilling truth to what the winter solstice, the winter solstice, Christmas, and Saturnalia is really commemorative of. Hold on for your dear life, family. So let's go into the first book of Adam and Eve, and we're going to get chapter 69, 1 to 9.
All right. It's up on the screen for you if you can see it. The first book of Adam and Eve, chapter 69, verse 1. Then Satan, the hater of all good, envious of Adam and of his offering, through which he found favor with the Most High, hastened and took a sharp stone from among sharp iron stones, appeared in the form of a man, and went and stood by Adam and Eve. Adam was then offering on the altar, and had begun to pray with his hands spread unto the Most High. Then Satan hastened with the sharp iron stone he had with him, and with it pierced Adam on the right side. When flowed blood and water, then Adam fell upon the altar like a corpse, and Satan fled. Then Eve came and took Adam and placed him below the altar, and there she stayed, weeping over him, while a stream of blood flowed from Adam's side upon his offering. But the Most High looked upon the death of Adam. He then sent his word and raised him up, and said unto him, Fulfill thy offering, for indeed Adam it is worth much, and there is no shortcoming in it.
Right, now let me kind of throw this disclaimer out. There are many books of Adam and Eve, and not all of them are sound. Right? Go on.
But the Most High said further unto Adam, Thus will it also happen to me on the earth, when I shall be pierced, and blood shall flow, blood and water from my side, and run over my body, which is the true offering, and which shall be offered on the altar as a perfect offering.
Go on.
Then the Most High commanded Adam to finish his offering, and when he had ended it, he worshipped before the Most High, and praised him for his signs he had showed him. And the Most High healed Adam in one day, which is the end of the 7 weeks, and that is the 50th day. Then Adam and Eve returned from the mountain and went into the cave of treasures as they were used to do. This completed for the Adam and Eve 140 days since their coming out of the garden.
All right. So, Christmas is the celebration of the fall of mankind. Take out your phones and do this Google search according to Adam and Eve saying 140 days since their coming out of the garden. Remember, this day was Pentecost, 140 days after Adam and Eve fell. Type into Google what day is 140 days before March 5th, 2025? Anyone want to do this? Pull out your phone and let's see. Kind of did it this morning, but let me see if the math's right. So, type into Google, what date is 140 days before May 5th?
2024.
Yeah, 2024. December what? 17. December 17. And when does the Saturnalia start? December 17. Right? So it definitely lines up there. So let's continue. So let me read this again. Christmas is the celebration of the fall of mankind. Take out your phones and do the Google search according to Adam and Eve, saying 140 days since their coming out of the garden. Remember, this day was Pentecost. 140 days after Adam and Eve fell. Type into Google, what date is 140 days before May 5th, 2024. And it says May 5th, 2024 is Pentecost this year. Right? So it really saying that that time period of the winter solstice, not only is it talking about, the resurrection of the sun or the dying of the sun, and it's crazy when you actually put it like that. But they're saying basically, or what's being said here is that celebration is really celebrating the fall of Adam, the fall of mankind. Right? Now the book of Enoch confirms this time period being the darkest part of the darkest season, winter, what pagans call the longest night. Right? So when we go into Enoch, we understand that this time period that they're calling the winter solstice, winter and whatnot, goes into, like for the paganists, they look at this as a sacred time. And the reality is what they believe that during this time period, the spirit realm and their realm is, the barrier between them is at the thinnest, and it's the best time to tap into the spiritual realm. This is what they believe, right? And we're going to look into this. Follow with me. Let's go book of Enoch. So we're going to first deal with the time period being the darkest time, right? Let's go into the book of Enoch, chapter 72, and we're going to go 25 to 27.
All right. Book of Enoch, chapter 72, 25 to 27. And the sun rises on that day from the second portal and sets in the west in the second portal and returns to the east into the first portal for 130 mornings and sets in the first portal in the west of the heaven.
All right, so everyone understands this, what's being spoken about here? Yeah. Dealing with the migration of the sun. So for us, we should know this, but for those that are joining us who may not have heard this before, the sun is the one that's actually doing the moving throughout the earth. Right? So when we look at it, we see the sun, it rises in the east, it sets in the west. Many will lead us to believe that the earth is spinning and whatnot, but if we actually look, you can see the sun in itself is making its journey throughout the earth. Right? Bible talks about it, saying how the sun is like a man on a chariot, going about making his course throughout the day, right? So scriptures give that understanding. But when we look into the earth, into the sky, we can see that migration, right? Continue on.
Verse 26, and on that day the night becomes longer and amounts to the double of the day.
Right, so when the sun goes through what portal?
The first.
The first portal, go on.
And the night amounts exactly to 12 parts, and the day to 6.
Right, so now you're getting 12 parts night, you're getting more light, more night, than you are getting day. Right, go on.
And the sun has therewith traversed the divisions of his orbit, and turns again on those divisions of his orbit.
Right, so it's constantly going back and forth in these two portals. Right? Or it's constantly making the same journey. So it'll go from the west, and then after it'll appear back in the east, and then it'll do the journey again. Right? Go on.
And that portal 30 mornings and sets also in the west opposite to it.
Right? So it does that for 30 mornings. After the 30 mornings, then eventually it'll do it again for another 30, another 30, then the last one, or 30, 30, 31. When we reach 31, we're entering into a new season. Right? This is how the sun makes its course throughout the year. Go on.
This eventually, of course, ends winter, leading us into the first day of spring, the new year. Equal parts day and equal parts night, and the days become longer day by day.
Right? So how do we know the first day of the year? Well, it's written in the book of Enoch that the last day of the year will have equal day, equal night. Now, if you go on a can you say the word time a website that dissects time. I forgot what it's called. It's an exhibitor or something of that nature. You can actually put in these calculations to find out what time of the year we have equal sunset, equal daytime, right? So that's how we understand that, right? Enoch gives us the understanding of what to look for. Then we go through it, and you can see that during this time of the year, we have equal sunset, equal night as well, right? It only happens 2 times of the year. It happens during what we know as the spring equinox, according to the book of Enoch. Not what they tell you that, because they'll tell you that happens during the time of Easter. So it happens during what we call the spring equinox, and then you have another one that happens during the fall equinox as well. So 2 times within the year, we have equal day, equal night. That happens, as I said, during the time of spring, and another one during the time of the fall. Right? Go on.
On that day the night decreases and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly as to its days, 364. And the length of day and of the night, and the shortness of the day and of the night arise through the course of the sun. These distinctions are made lit, they are separated.
All right, so that part of the year when night becomes longer marks a time in the year that many major pagan festivals begin, starting with Halloween, aka Samhain, right? That's another term it goes by. October 31st to November 1st, Thanksgiving or Thanksgiving. November 24 or 25th, Christmas, or better yet, Christmas or Antichrist Mass, December 25th, New Year, January 1st, and lastly, Valentine's, February 14th. Witches and wizards are laboriously active during these times, casting spells, conjuring spirits, etc. And you think about it. Starts from Halloween, and then from Halloween links you into the Christmas, then the New Year's, then Valentine's Day. That's a whole heap of spells being cast on the people during that time. Right? And you think about it. I mean, Valentine's too, we can say has a spell on people. In fact, everybody is looking for Cupid and to get shot with an arrow, and if I don't get this or I don't get that, but nonetheless, it has everyone, so to speak, in a spell during that time. I'm gonna pick on sisters, especially the sisters. Brothers, we're looking at some of these stuff they want us to buy, and we're like, man, teddy bear, 200. Not saying y'all ain't worth it. You guys are worth it, but you know what I'm trying to say. We could put that towards something else. $200 on flowers that died the next couple of days. Yeah, but nonetheless, we see that spirit, right? From that time period to that time period. Let me continue. Witches and wizards are laboriously active during these times, casting spells, conjuring spirits, etc., for power to come against believers at all costs. And really, that is the aim and that is the focus. Because the pagans, they've been doing this forever. But it's really us who follow Christ who a lot of times they're marketing these things to. right? And don't get me wrong, they're marketing to some degree to everybody, but we know that Satan, his war is against those that desire righteousness. And a lot of times, because we don't understand the history of these things, we don't understand the spiritual realm, because we're ignorant of, demons, spirits, and whatnot, we eventually start, think about it. I was a Christian. I still did Valentine's Day. Did anybody tell us any different? Did our pastors? In fact, what did the churches do? You know what? We're going to have Valentine's Day at the church. And you know what? We want to get people married. That's what it's about. Right? And then they'll do that. Halloween time. What are they doing?
Same thing.
We're going to have a costume party. Don't dress up as a demon. Be Christ. Be Peter. Be a good angel. Pick and choose of the characters you want to play in the Bible. Just be a Bible character. So, in fact, the churches have incorporated these same practices as well. And this is after Constantine. Right? Like the Christmas, the Easter, okay, that's one thing. But we see that we're incorporating everything now in order that we don't lose people. Right? And it's like saying, you know what, let's do evil that good may come from it. And we know what Paul says about it. Damnation to those people who think that way, right? And you hear pastors, we know it's pagan, but guess what? This is the one time of the year we can get people in the church. Now that to me is dangerous. Because we're using deception as marketing. And we're not looking at ourselves, okay, well, guess what, guys? We may need to rework on our branding to get more people in the church outside of Christmas time. Because Christmas time, everybody's looking at it, the house is going to be filled on Christmas Day. Kind of goes into what we were doing with Baal. Right? But let's continue. Go on.
I got the commentaries.
The commentaries, so let me continue to read. Right? We will show that during this time, for that very reason, it is vital that you finish the year strong and also start the year off strong to boost your spiritual walk into the new year. It's during this time that many believers fall off from the body of Christ, becoming offended at leadership, etc. Right? Demonic power is the most powerful at this time, in which pagans say that the veil between the two realms is thinnest, right? So they believe that during this time, starting from Halloween, that the spiritual realm and their physical realm is very easy to mix with each other, right? So now that we've gotten through the dark part of this lesson, let's see the lighter side of things. Pun intended. We will go into a familiar book called Manners and Customs of Bible Land by Fred H. White, to explain why Yeshaya warned us of this time period using husbandry as an example of lukewarm believers falling away from his body around this time, right? Now let me get this, kind of just proving that theory, that pagans believe that this is actually the time when the spiritual realm, they can link into these fallen spirits, right? This is Pagan Book of Days. Some of us are familiar with this. This is a book brought out back in the days. But this book actually shows you pretty much a lot of these celebrations that have been incorporated is actually linked into a deity. Right? So, I'll give you an example. What is October 11th for us here? What day is that? What day do they wear the poppies? Remembrance Day, right? Well, actually, you know what? I'm focusing on the wrong month. Let me just get to the main point, guys. Let me get to the main point. I'm glad I asked that question because I was supposed to put November in October. But they believe, and this is according to pagan book days,
All right, so October 31st, Samhain Eve, Halloween, goddess month of Samhain commences. The feast of Samhain marks the onset of a darker, more introspective time of year when access to the other world is easier than usual. The festival is also known as Halloween, when witches ride abroad.
Right? So they understand that that spiritual realm to link into demons and whatnot, it starts from from Halloween time. What?
But the Catholic Church, the day after, November 1st,
Yeah.
they celebrate the Day of the Dead.
The Day of the Dead.
Right, and I believe it should be in that book as well. Because I grew up going to Catholic.
Yeah.
Just like after Halloween, we would go to Mass, and it was like the Day of the Dead, where they celebrate the dead.
So they're in line right with it, linking it into that spiritual realm, right? I know, I believe in parts of South America as well. They also have that Day of the Dead, when they dress up as demons, paint their face, and
Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo, that's what's called, right? So we see it's a practice still happening as we speak. But let's go into the lighter side of this, and let's get into Christ, right? Showing you that, he spoke about this time period using husbandry as a delicate time for believers to either make it or to pretty much not make it, right? So let's get this.
Okay, we're at manners and customs. Right?
Yeah, manners and customs of Bible land, chapter 20, page 129, pruning of the grapevines. Now, understanding husbandry, understanding the culture, kind of helps to really bring Christ's parables to life. Now, many of us, we don't really practice, we don't work the vineyard and whatnot, but I'm going to say, having the blessing to be able to work the land with Brother Caleb, and also, understanding, because, we understand that eventually we have to know how to plant and be self-sufficient, but being able to do that helps me to understand the importance of a seed being planted, the land that is planted on, all these things that Christ spoke about, right? In this book, it's the same ideal, understanding, the culture to give you a more in-depth of what Christ was speaking about, right? Because think about it, a lot of times when we hear Christ's parable, because we don't deal with a lot of those, we don't operate in the same mannerism of the culture, of our culture during that time period. A lot of times it goes over our head. But when you understand the husbandry, how to work the land and whatnot, it really just hits differently. Brother Caleb, I don't know if that's the same for you. Have you experienced that? Totally, right? It's like, you don't understand, like, for instance, you don't understand the importance of a sheepfold if you don't have sheep. You know what I'm saying? It goes over your head. The sheepfold is where the sheep are supposed to be gathered and stored and whatnot. You see what I mean? So I'm saying a lot of those things, it doesn't hit us as it should because we're not in tune with the mannerism and that way of living, right? Keep on going though. Let's go.
All right, it says, before the arrival of springtime, the keeper of the vineyard prunes off every superficial branch, every branch that is sickly or feeble, so that the sap, Holy Spirit, may flow into the healthy ones that will bear fruit.
Right, so when does this happen? During the springtime. So during or before the arrival of springtime, the keeper of the vineyard, he's pretty much cutting off all the feeble and sick parts of the plant in order for the sap of the plant to really hit the places that are going to bear fruit, right? Anything that is not fit, that cannot be used, usually during this time period, it is cut off and removed, not to take away any energy from the plant, right? Go on.
The branch that is located nearest the trunk, vine/Christ.
So the branch that is located nearest to the trunk, that's Christ. Christ is the vine, right? Go on.
Or root usually bears the most grapes.
Right? So we know that Christ will always bear the most grapes. He's the root. It's about Christ. Right? Go on.
Yeshaya indicates his familiarity with the pruning of the grapevines in his famous allegory of the vine and the branches. I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman.
Right? So Christ is the vine. Who takes care of the vine? The Most High. Go on.
Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away, and every branch that beareth fruit, he pruneth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you.
Right? So we understand husbandry now. Usually what time does this happen? During this time. Between March, right? Because remember, we're coming into the new year now. This is before, so we're in that March and April part, that delicate time where those that are going to bear fruit are nourished. Those that don't look too healthy are cut off. And, you know, what they said, think about it, how when you look from year to year, usually the cutoff period, like when you start seeing people, you don't see them as much. No, sometimes when it's time, they usually, because, you know, we're at the end, we're at the end of harvest. It's usually Passover after Passover. And then you think about it, let's just think about it. Summertime.
Yeah.
A lot of people are missing sometimes in the summertime. And some of them, they want to get freed up. You know, some of them, it's the festivities, all these different things and whatnot, but sometimes we see usually a small fall in the way. You know, something may have happened at Passover or whatnot, but you do see that. I can't 100% say, you know, I haven't been doing a tally to see the numbers, but I could say that does bear truth to some degree, right? We do see that, right?
May I ask a question?
Yes.
For the Passover, how long does it go for? Like
It's all day. That's
No.
Yeah.
I thought it was for like 7 days or so.
Oh yeah, it's
Going into the Feast of Unleavened Bread.
from Passover sunset. So Passover is the Sabbath. The sunset, you're going into unleavened bread. So you'll eat. That'll be 7 days for the festival.
Okay, because somebody asked, because it wasn't sure, so I
Yeah.
told them all.
No, that'll be a 7 day festival. No, I understand why you went there. Go on though.
All right. So now we're going to Manners and Customs of the Bible Lands, chapter 20, page 201. Christ and the fig tree. So it says, Christ and the fig tree. In order to understand why Christ cursed the fig tree, one day it is necessary to know the custom of the fig tree's growth of leaves and fruit. The normal habit of the fig trees is that fruit begins to form on the tree as soon as leaves appear.
Right? So to understand why Christ condemned the fig tree. The custom of the fig tree, and I never grew up with a fig tree. I hope, some of us did grow up with fig trees back in the islands or whatnot. But the custom of the fig tree is basically, as long as you see leaves on it, it should bear fruit. Right? That's how it should operate. Go on.
Leaves and fruit also disappear together.
Right? So leaves and fruits, they appear together and they disappear together. There's no other way. Go on.
But it was said of the fig tree which Yeshaya and his disciples saw on the Mount of Olives, for the time of figs was not yet.
So when Christ approached the fig tree, the time of fig was not yet. But it had leaves on it. And if it should have leaves, it should have fruit. Right? So even though it wasn't the time of the figs, it was the fact that it had leaves, it should have had bare fruit. Go on.
And you can read that in Mark 11:13. And it says, actually, this was no excuse for the fig tree, because if it was not the time for figs, it was also not the time for leaves to appear. By a show of leaves, it was like many people pretending to have fruit which was not there.
Read that again.
By a show of leaves, it was like many people pretending to have fruit which was not there.
Right? And we see that. And I'm looking at that, I'm saying that should hit all of us. So it's 100%. But having the appearance like we're bearing fruit. And really and truly, we got leaves, but we got no fruits. And many of us, we have leaves. So a form of it, like we should bear fruit, but we got no fruit. Can I say that?
Yes,
That's
I
what
wanted
I
to
said.
ask, when Christ saw that, he cursed the tree.
Yeah?
So when we see that in others, what should we do? How do we
I mean, he's the vine.
Yeah.
The Father is the husbandry. We don't have the right to do anything. Just to pray and, as servants, maybe we can help to nurture the plant. Or use some of our energy to restore that part that's lacking. You know what I mean? There's, in terms of that. But at the end of the day,
It's the Most High cutting them
it's
off.
him that will be cutting. It's the angels that be gathering and scattering and all those things. You know what I mean? So we're just part of the plant. We're just praying that we're the healthy part of the plant. And not the part that's not fit for use, that eventually will be cut off and thrown into that fire. Right?
It's just like right now, you're doing the planting, but it's okay.
No.
No, listen.
Yeah, go ahead.
Listen. No, like the fact that, because right now, you're giving the word of the Most High.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a lot of people, especially those of us that's coming from different churches that really didn't hear some of the things that you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been hard for some of us because we've been hearing all these different things for so many years. It's embedded in us so much that it's like a fight to accept what you're saying. So what I was saying is like you're doing this right now, but Ahaya is the one that's going to do the watering and help us to grow into this new thing, into this new.
Well, I'm going to say it's the other way around. Because I'm more doing water and another brother's doing the planting. The Most High is giving the increase. Right? So according to scripture, it would be the other way around. But I mean, this doesn't exempt anybody. I mean, I could look like I got leaves. I could look like I have a form of it. But what are the fruits saying? Do I have any fruit to show this? Or am I just a fig looking?
With no leaves.
No, I got leaves. I just got no fruit. And that's what we all have to ask ourselves. You know what I mean? Because, all of us, you look righteous. You sound righteous. But are you really righteous? And that's where it hits all of us. Right? Brother Kev, you want to say something?
It's like wolves in sheepskin. I've got the skin, but I don't act like wolves.
But the thing is, I even give wolves more credit. Because they know they're wolves. They understand that they're coming in to destroy. But the thing is, with a plant that bears no fruit, guess what? It's still a plant. It's convinced, I'm here. I'm going through the motion. I get sun. I'm going through the motion. But what I was designed to do, it's not coming to its fulfillment. You know what I mean? And that's the thing is that that can be so deceptive. Because we think we're good. We look healthy. To the other people looking at us, they may look at us and look healthy. But there's no fruit coming from this plant that looks good. And therefore, that plant's really, it looks good in the house. But it doesn't serve no real purpose. Right? Huh? Yeah. It's a malignant plant. Right? With a malignant root.
Would that be the same as 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 5?
That's where I am right now.
You sure? You want to get that?
That's where I am right now. 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse number 5. Having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, from such turn away.
Okay, yeah. Right? So we can be that and not know we're that until, the Most High comes and be like, let me curse this plant because it's good for nothing. Right? But let's go back. I think it touches on this as well.
It says, it was like the Pharisees who pretended to have fruit which was not there. It was like the Pharisees who professed to be very religious, but whose lives were fruitless. Therefore Christ cursed this tree as an object lesson to all not to be hypocritical. Yeshua also gave us a parable of the barren fig tree. He spake also this parable. A certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came and sought fruit thereon and found none. Then said he unto the dresser of the vineyard, Behold, these 3 years I come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and find none. Cut it down. Why cumber it the ground? And he answered and said unto him, Lord, let it alone this year also, till I shall dig about it and dung it, and if it bear fruit, well,
Keep on going.
and if not, then after that thou shalt cut it down.
Right? I know you get that. Do we get that? Someone want to explain that to me? I want to see if you guys really get that. I won't put you guys on the spot. But Brother Brian, go ahead.
What I was getting from it was, the patience of the Most High saying that this tree wasn't bearing fruit for like 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I think it was the husbandman said, you know what? Leave it for another year. Let us put dung around it, which is essentially fertilizer.
Mm-hmm.
So let's now give me 1 more year to give more knowledge and to give more wisdom.
God.
I see that as a grace from the Most High.
God.
And after that 1 year, if they're bearing fruit or not, then we know what the Most High is going to do.
God. Right? So, we can look at this in so many different ways, but there's so many different things. We have testimonies of creation saying, Most High, let me judge them. The angels saying, Most High, let me judge them. And the Most High, or Christ, advocating on our behalf is saying, no, we're going to give them more time. We're going to send some nourishment. And we're praying that eventually this plant will bear fruit. And I think we all get that. You want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, I had 2 fig trees in my yard.
Mhm.
So when that happened, I irrigated it. So like you said, to give it that nourishment, the seed. Once we nourished it, if it didn't grow, then that's when we began to prune it. Which means cutting those branches off that didn't bear fruit.
Mm-hmm.
So the ones that were bearing for that next season, they'll get the nourishment. So those that didn't bring fruit, it was really taken from those.
Yeah, it takes away the energy from that.
From those. And so the object lesson out of that is when we are in a body like this and we see the fruits of those who give good fruit, and we see those that plant bad seeds. It is not for us to cast judgment, but continue to do the work of the Most High, and He'll begin to pluck that out of the way.
I want to go somewhere though. Because showing you how understanding these things really bring a whole new understanding. So we know that, for instance, the parts of the plant that bear no fruit, right? They have a habit of taking energy from the other parts of the plant.
But break it down.
Hold on, no, pause there for a second.
Break that down.
Let's pause there for a second. Let's apply this to the truth. Now, we know that not everybody who says they're of the Most High is of the Most High. Let's keep it honest. And you have some that if you look at their fruit, you see what they're really about. And you'll find that those ones that are not really trying to be fruitless or fruitful take away the energy of those that are trying to be fruitful.
Malice, strife, bitterness.
I'm just thinking about it. I mean, these things come in and it takes away from the energy that we have, and it sucks out our energy.
We call it suckers on the apple tree.
Suck it, okay. That's a gardening term for it. Now, eventually, in order for the tree to gain some sort of health and for the energy to go where it needs to go, to promote more growth, more fruits, we have to cut those parts of the tree off. So, we need to understand this importance. Because guess what? If we don't do it, or we don't help those other parts of the plant that are not, then eventually the Most High will do it. And usually when the Most High does it,
I believe that's what Marcia was alluding to earlier when she had that question earlier. What should we be doing?
yeah,
I believe that's what she was.
I mean,
It's
You know, as the body, we got to see it for what it is. And this is why we have to take a stand. Because in the end of the day, we're hoping for repentance. We're hoping for what didn't bear good fruit will one day bear good fruit. But in the end of the day, the Most High will cut off what needs to cut off. Right?
It's just,
See,
Okay.
when we confront people
Yeah.
with the truth, we're giving them manure.
Yeah.
We feed them. No? So that's our work. No? We don't judge them. We feed them more word, believing that they'll walk out of that numbness.
I mean, we care about the whole plant, right? So, but, Sister Don, you want to say something? Then let's continue.
I was just saying, like, my sister and her husband live in Florida, and they have a mango tree beside their home. But the mango tree all of a sudden stopped bearing.
Mhm.
So her husband will go there every day and talk to the mango tree and tell him, if you don't grow any mango this year, or for the year to come, I'm going to cut you down. And then by the year, because I was there when they say that, and by the next year, this mango grows the tree grows so much mango.
Well, I'll tell you this. Because it was a mango tree, I would be advocating for it. Saying, Most High, just give it more time. I'm going to dung it. Because you guys know I love mango, right? Let's continue though.
It says, here was a fig tree that fell for 3 years to bear fruit. When its owner had a right to expect a crop, the gardener suggested patience with the tree and proposed additional cultivation and fertilization.
Hold on, read that part again.
The gardener suggested patience with the tree.
Hold on, look, one verse.
Here was a fig tree that fell for 3 years to bear fruit.
Right, so the fig tree failed for 3 years to bear fruit. Go on.
When its owner had a right to expect a crop.
So the owner had a right to expect a crop. Who is the owner of this fig tree? Who is the owner of the fig tree? Who's the husbandry man? The Most High. Right? In the book of Isaiah, the Most High says, I have planted a vineyard. And when I expected grapes from it, it brought forth wild grapes. So he is the owner of the plant. He planted the vineyard. He put a tower around it. He did everything to protect this plant. Then the Most High asked, what more could I have done for my plant? So it's the Most High's plant. So who, read that part. So the owner wanted that from his plant, was expecting fruits. Who was taking care of the next person?
The gardener.
Who's the gardener? That's doing what? Nourishing it, pleading for it. Because remember, before we had the adversary in the heavens condemning the plant, cussing the plant, saying the Most High, the plant did this, the plant did that, it's not bearing no fruits. Time to cut off this plant, tired of the plant. Go find a new plant amongst the other plant them. Right? Now Christ said, no, kick out Satan. And the Most High saying, Father, bear the plant. I'm going to send the Spirit out and gather the plant together and revive the plant. And he's doing all these things. But remember, the Bible says we have an advocate before the Father pleading on our behalf. That's Christ. Right?
Patience and long-suffering.
100%, right? He's that high priest that's going on before the Most High on our behalves. Right? Go on.
Says the gardener suggested patience with the tree and proposed additional cultivation and fertilization for it, giving it another chance to bear figs. It will be noted that this fig tree had been planted in the midst of a vineyard, this often done in Palestine.
Right? So we understand it's Christ telling the Most High to have patience, but eventually that plant will be cut off, or that part of the plant will be cut off if it bears no fruit. Right? So it says it was a custom amongst our people to use the skills of husbandry to cultivate our land. Christ grew up in the same culture as did his disciples. He used these examples that could be most relatable to teach his followers of past, present, and future. The branches on the grapevine / trunk represent believers, and the grapevine / trunk is Christ. Every branch that doesn't exhibit growth, aka fruits, before the spring begins, which is the very time we are discussing, is cut off so the sap, aka the Holy Spirit, won't flow into the believers that isn't going to do anything with that spiritual benefit, which aids growth. This was also shown in the parable of the talents/pounds. Likewise, the parable in Luke 13:6-9, the fig tree in the vineyard also represents a believer. The certain man or the owner of the fig tree or the vineyard is Ahiah, and the dresser/farmer is Christ. We are all given a set time to show forth certain growth, and year by year, beginning at the start of the year, the Most High is evaluating our progress to see if we are worth keeping around. And that hits. Because that's that same evaluation that we talk about, that we need to have, unless we be judged. But evaluating ourselves year by year and seeing if there's any growth. And there's areas where there's growth, and there's areas where we can say there's stagnation and no growth. And that hits home because we understand that we can also be that fruit or that part of the tree that there's no change in, and we're in jeopardy of being cut off if not careful, right? So we could say, yeah, we had a good year, I didn't do this, but on a whole, how is this progress looking, right? And that's something to wake us up. Let's continue. I gotta continue, right?
Yeah. 3 to 5 years.
So 3 to 5 years is usually the time when most fall away from God, as this is also the time of Christ's ministry to his disciples. But one of them secretly did not move with the herd. More on this one later. When a person gets cut off or spewed out, this is the same as God giving you over to a reprobate mind. At that time, you begin to do things inconvenient for your salvation, which leads to your departure from the body of Christ. Also note, just because a person is still around presently, doesn't mean they haven't been given over already, right? So just because they're still around, doesn't mean that the adversary doesn't have them, right? Judas was around long before his demise. But just like us, it's just a matter of time. Christ is before the throne advocating for us to the Most High to give us more chance, aka let it alone this year also, till I shall dig about it and dung it, and after it bears fruits, and after it will bear fruit. And if it bears fruit, well, and if not, then after thou shalt cut it down. Let's revisit John chapter 15 to dive a bit deeper. We're going to go John chapter 15 verse 1, and we're going to look at the same parable here. And we're going to go a little bit deeper with this.
All right. The book of John chapter 15. And it says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away, and every branch that beareth fruit, he purged it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine, no more can ye except ye abide in me.
Right? So in order for us to bear fruit, what must we be in? We must be in Christ. And I highlight that. Why? Because I think it was last week we were talking about sharing the word with people. And, why don't people get it? Why don't people understand? And part of that can be is because we need to get deeper in Christ. We don't really know him. Right? We have an understanding of him, but do we know him? And as I said, that goes from the top all the way to the bottom. I got to look at, you know what? How do I be more fruitful? And am I not more fruitful because I need to get deeper into Christ? We all have to ask ourselves that. Sister Marcia also?
So therefore you can lose your salvation.
We could all lose our salvation. You got to finish this race in righteousness, right? So it's in Ezekiel where it tells you that a man who dies in unrighteousness, his righteousness that he has done throughout his whole life will not be good enough for him to make it. And in fact, a man who's been sinning his whole life and repented in the later part of his life, he will make it because he finished off in righteousness, right? Let's continue though.
It says, I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered. And when men gather them and cast them into the fire, they are burned. If ye abide in me, and my words abide in you, ye shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit, so ye shall be my disciples.
All right, let's get Matthew chapter 3, verse 7. But we see that in order to bring forth fruit, we have to remain in the vine, which is Christ, right?
Look at Matthew chapter 3, verse number 7, reading to 10. But when he saw many of the Pharisees and the Sadducees come to his baptism, he said unto them, O generation of vipers, who hath warned you to flee from the wrath to come? Bring forth therefore fruits meet for repentance. And think not to say within yourselves, we have Abraham to our father. For I say unto you that the Most High is able of these stones to raise up children unto Abraham.
Right, and I say this all the time. Being the children of Israel is not good enough to make it into the kingdom of heaven. Go on.
And now also the axe is laid unto the root of the trees. Therefore every tree which bringeth not forth fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire.
Right, and I think once again, and I think many of us would agree with this, that once again we are approaching this time where once again the axe is right beside the tree, and we are heading in a time of judgment, a time where the Most High is going to cut what needs to be cut and remove what needs to be removed off of this tree. This is the time that we're heading into, a time of judgment. And it's very important that we see that, take heed to the times ahead, and prepare. And we understand in order for us to prepare, we got to be in the vine. We got to get deeper in the vine. We got to get more serious in this walk, in this ministry, in our relationship with the Most High. Right?
They're already trying to pass the law here in Canada that if they caught you quoting Bible, they're going to put it in jail.
Yeah,
They already started.
I'm going to definitely look into that some more. What I did see, though, any guys watch Coming Out of Babylon last night? All right, well, I posted it. Well, I never watch it, I'll be honest with you guys. I have it on. Probably fall asleep while I'm watching it. But then I get up early in the morning and I just kind of watch it and pick up as I can. Now, one of the things that they had in there that was so, I mean, they had a lot of deep stuff, but one of the things was that they ended was what they were showing what's happening in New York right now. And what's happening in New York right now, everybody understands the influx of immigrants coming into the place and whatnot. But what's also happening through that is crime is going through the roof. Now that crime is going through the roof, we're seeing scenarios where immigrants are beating up police officers. As I said, we had one scenario where they went into Manhattan Square, Times Square, and they were robbing stores. And I'm like, robbing stores in Times Square? I'm like, there's cops everywhere there. But none of this happened. It turned into one guy tourist got shot. The guy waved the gun at police, whatnot. So all these things are happening at higher numbers than normal. So the mayor of New York called in the National Guards. So in the U.S. right now, in the subway station, and a lot of crime is happening in the subway stations. So what they did is now at the subway stations, they got the National Guard and they got military. So how it looks, and when I'm talking about military, I'm talking about in military guard, in military uniform, with big AKs on their side, while you're walking into the subway. And people who walking into the subway, in order to get on the train, guess what? We have to, IDs, no, IDs the least.
Pat down.
We need checks. They're searching bags. And they have a sign. In order to get on this train, we have to search your bags. And if you choose to refuse, then you cannot use our services. And if you refuse to use our services, and later on we catch you trying to come back on this same, train with the same bag, we will arrest you. So they're even going to the point where we will arrest you because you have some people, what do you mean? Come on, some of us. You're not search my bag. And then we're gonna jump a barricade and whatnot. We're gonna fight the security guard, whatnot. I mean, maybe not there in New York, because I'm saying you're seeing military with AKs on the thing. No, it's okay. Thank you. I'll pass. Right? But that's what's happening. So to me, that really kind of gives me an indicator of the time that we are in. Because the Bible, Christ says, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, it's time to flee. Now, we're not there yet on this side of the border. But we know that to some degree, we did have a scare with the subway thing and whatnot where, I used to tell my wife, because she used to go, I think during that time you're taking bus to go downtown and whatnot. I'm saying, how is the bus right now? Because every week you're hearing about someone getting stabbed on the bus. And what they did is they said, okay, we're going to put more policing in the subway and whatnot. We're going to do that and whatnot. So it never got to the extent of military personnel there. But eventually I think we'll get there as well. I just feel like Canada, we're already ready for the mark of the beast. There's no fight in us. Sad to say, there is no fight in us. You know what? I'm going to take that back. There's a few individuals fighting because, for instance, some of the smart cities that they're trying to put up in certain parts, people are like, no, that's not coming into our city. Coming into our area and whatnot. So you do have some people that are waking up. I just don't think we have the numbers compared to across the border and whatnot, right? But let's finish up. I
was going to say on the New York thing, 'cause this is, I don't know if it was in that the Babylon thing from last night, but a Russian man also excited a riot in New York because he wanted his own street. They wanted their own street. So this is the type of the things that are going on in the States right now. So that caused a riot, and now that's all over social media as well.
So as I said,
they're
definitely in a serious time. Definitely in a serious time. And then on top of that, just going back to the fact that this axe, it's by the tree. We're in a time where the Most High is cutting off what needs to cut off and whatnot. And we see this. We're in a time where death is running rampant throughout the earth. You know what I mean? When we're living in a time where you have things that classified as sudden death syndrome, people are waking up dying. Young people are dying from heart attacks, this, that. I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking at, it feels like there's a major car accident like every week now. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to that. Anybody been paying attention to that? Okay. I've been a little bit, not watching it, keeping it up with it, because I was kind of at the point where I had enough of this, but big accident, 3 people accident in Brampton, 3 people died. I'm like, all these accidents, and it's accident where people are numbers of people are dying. I'm like, that's not common.
Even with funerals, a lot of people, like family members, whatnot, friends, every week I talk to somebody's dead.
Exactly.
They're running out of space in the mortuary.
Yeah.
See, so we are in that time where, as I said, the axe by the tree. So it's a time where we have to start taking things more serious, our walk more serious, because tomorrow's not guaranteed. And one thing that is guaranteed is that there's two places where we will spend eternity. And it's either in the bosom, only to be resurrected and in the presence of the Most High in Christ, or in the lake of fire to be in the presence of the angels, Satan, and the fallen ones in eternal judgment and damnation. Right? Let's close on out. Let me finish reading.
Commentary, yep.
Read the commentary. And I'm right here, right? Yep. So we have traveled from the winter solstice to the start of the year and moving towards the Passover. Again, it is in this very time period many fall away from God, either physically or spiritually, mentally, or all three. The only time a farmer can see or know what type of fruit a tree will bring later is by its early blossoms and leaves during very late winter and early spring before the tree sap runs out, right? So it's usually these indicators that give the farmer or the husbandry an understanding of what this tree, if this is a good tree going into the new year, that will bring good fruit this year, right? Bare branches, so branches that have no leaves on them, get burned in the fire. That doesn't happen at any other time. We are currently in this time of reckoning. Let's further prove with more examples how your conduct throughout the year and during this time is in particular, can make you or break you. Did anyone else we know fall away at this time period? And that's a question. Do we know? Can we think of people who we know that were here that are not here that fell off during this time period, or even this year as a whole? Right? Says don't fumble away the rock. Right? So all of us, very important that we can't fumble what the Most High has given unto us. Right? Let's get John chapter 6 verse 4. And let's bring this home.
All right. So in the book of John, chapter 6, and verse number 4. And the Passover, a feast of the Jews, was nigh. Jumping down to verse 70. Yeshua answered them, Have not I chosen you 12, and one of you is a devil?
Go on.
He spake of Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon, for he it was that should betray him, being one of the 12.
Right? So what time was this happening? During Passover, right? So here we see Christ calling Judas a devil at the second Passover during his ministry. We know his ministry was 3 years because we see 3 Passover celebrations Christ was part of. The third being the one where he was crucified. Christ knew Judas was a devil because of much of the time during those 3 years Judas was secretly stealing from the treasury, right? John chapter 12, verse 6. This conduct led to him being given over the next year, right before Passover, during this very time we have been discussing the entire year. So when we look at Judas, Christ understood how he operated throughout the year, that he wasn't a good plant. He would be the plant that eventually would betray him and, no fruit, right? Christ understood this by operating with him throughout the year. So he understood that based on how this plant was going, eventually going into the new year, which was happening right before Passover, that this plant would do what it was meant to do, which is bring forth destruction, right? Or betray him, right? Let's continue. Mark.
I'm going to the book of Mark, chapter 14. Reading 1 down to 12 for those of you who want to write it down. Verse number 1. After 2 days was the feast of the Passover and of unleavened bread, and the chief priests and the scribes sought how they might take him by craft and put him to death. But they said, not on the feast day.
Right? So there's a bunch of these trees, right? But you notice all of them during this time of the year was in this mindset. How can we kill it? How can we destroy it? Right? Go on.
Lest there be an uproar of the people. And being in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at the meat, there came a woman having an alabaster box of ointment of spikenard, very precious, and she brake the box and poured it on his head. And there were some that had indignation within themselves, and said, Why was this waste of the ointment made? For it might have been sold for more than 300 pieces of pence, and have been given to the poor. And they murmured against her. And Yeshua said, Let her alone. Why trouble ye her? She hath wrought a good work on me. For ye have the poor with you always, and whensoever ye will, ye may do them good. But me ye have not always. She had done what she could. She is come aforehand to anoint my body to the burying. Verily I say unto you, whosoever this gospel shall be preached throughout the whole world, this also that she had done shall be spoken of for a memorial of her. Verse number 10. And Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went into the chief priests to betray him unto them. And when they heard it, they were glad, and promised to give him money. And he sought how he might conveniently betray him. And the first day of unleavened bread, when they killed the Passover, his disciples said unto him, Where wilt thou that we go and prepare, that thou mayest eat the Passover? That's it on that. Going into Luke.
Yes.
So we're going to Luke chapter 22, picking up at verse 1, reading down to 7. And it reads, Now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, which is called the Passover, and the chief priests and scribes sought how they might kill him, for they feared the people. Then entered Satan into Judas, surnamed Iscariot, being of the number of the 12. And he went his way and communed with the chief priests and captains, how he might betray him unto them. And they were glad and covenanted to give him money. And he promised and sought opportunity to betray him unto them in the absence of the multitude. Then came the day of unleavened bread, when the Passover must be killed.
All right, so we've proved how Judas' secret sin led to self-destruction. By him being taken over by the chief of the dark side, which is Satan. But what type of conduct should true believers have year-round? And much more for the time of winter solstice to the new year, all the way unto Feast of Weeks. We will go into our law on Passover and get Christ's true understanding from behind the veil. Keeping Hebrew chapter 10 verse 1 to 7 and 2 Corinthians chapter 3 13 to 18 in mind. Now maybe we'll get Corinthians chapter 3 verse 13. But then it says, stay tuned for how did you eat your lamb? And I guess that's a follow-up lesson to this lesson. To find out the vital information you will need to be on the right side of judgment from Passover to Pentecost, right? With that being said, finish off by saying Shabbat Shalom, family, right?